Part 6.2, video ad frameworks. This is probably one of the most important parts of the course because this is going to teach you how to set up ads or creative content in a very formulaic way. Video ad frameworks create a dependable sequence structure to follow, okay? Especially if you don't have a script in place, having these video ad frameworks in your mind or, already written down, it's going to allow you to put things together a lot faster. You're going to be able to see clearly what the next step is in the editing process or video creation process or scripting process. That way you can actually recreate your success over and over again. This is the ADA framework. It stands for attention, interest, desire, and action. I didn't coin this term, but it's a very useful acronym to understand how video ads work, or any type of, I would say, video on social media works, at least one that's trying to drive some sort of result. Is within the first 3 seconds, you must grab their attention, right? Content must stop the prospect. It says here, 3-second video views divided by impressions equals the percentage of people that engage. 25 to 30% is a solid benchmark. So you can measure this stuff on the back end, wherever, on Facebook, TikTok, wherever the case may be, wherever you're advertising. But you want to be hitting a 25 to 30% stop rate, which means they are stopping to watch your video. So this is where that scroll stopper comes in, and this is where it matters the most. And I think this is one of the key things that people do the least of. So focusing on that first 3 seconds is absolutely key, and everybody will say it who's been in the game for a while. Number 2 comes down to the interest section. So once you've got their attention, you have to keep their interest, right? So content must hold the prospect. Video average watch times above 3 seconds on Facebook and Instagram, or above 30 seconds on YouTube, right? Depending on where you're actually advertising, you've got to keep their attention. If you're not keeping their attention, they're going to drop off. So you got their attention. Now you got to keep their interest. If you're not keeping them interested, they're going to bounce, right? So every single second is super, super valuable on social media and on when you're making ads, because you're essentially, once that person's gone, they're gone. So there's various ways to keep their interest, and whether you're an editor or shooting video, you keeping it engaging every single second is like changing the screen, or zooming in or zooming out, or adding an emoji, or adding a caption. Like, you can see some of the pros who've mastered this. They sustain the attention and the interest all throughout the entire video. So number 3, D for desire. Content must make the prospect explore further. So this is where your CTR comes in, which means click-through rate, and average outbound click-through rates above 1% means the ad was compelling. Okay, so this is a very important metric. If you've never run any ads, your CTR just basically means if they've clicked through on the ad, okay? And the higher your click-through rate is, the more effective your ad means. So it means that whatever you were putting out there was more relevant to them, and they're interested in clicking through. So, I think this is one of the biggest metrics to follow, especially if, you're making content. It's like, okay, are people actually interested in clicking? Did they even make it through the video? They make it through the first 3 seconds. Those are all strong indicators or key indicators for you to follow. So there's different ways to make a video more clickable, and we can talk about that later on. And lastly, you have A for action. Content must be effectively set up the final desired result. At the bottom of the creative funnel, cost per purchase and purchases themselves. Obviously, you have your ROAS. So if they actually decide to take action, if they actually decide to buy whatever it is you're putting out there, whatever your product you're selling is, will determine what your return on ad spend is, right? So you've got their attention, you've got to keep their interest, you've got to get them to click, and then you've got to get them to buy. Those are the 4 steps in the ADA framework. And so everything kind of combines into that framework when you structure out your video ads. So let's just jump right into that. Here is the ADA framework in a timeline sequence. And when I say timeline, I mean your video editing sequence, because as a video editor, we look at everything horizontally, right? From left to right. And when you're able to look at things from left to right, it's a lot easier to visualize what's the next logical step. So for me, attention means your hooks, your scroll stoppers. This is that first 3 seconds that you need to be really focusing on, keep getting their attention, right? And we'll break into what are these potential hooks: emotional hooks, sensory hooks, intellectual hooks. We have a description of what those are. After those first 3 seconds, then we want to keep them interested. So we got to keep them curious and engaged. And there's a few ways to do that. You don't want to bore them. You want to keep them on their toes. You want to keep them super excited or intrigued within that, the 4-second mark, 4 to 10 seconds. And then once you've established their interest, now you've got to create desire. In that desire framework or that sequence, you can include product introductions, demonstrations, benefits, features, resolution, social proof, authority, case studies, whatever the case may be for your video ad. And depending on how long you want the video to be, this is where you plug in all of those USPs and benefits and features and whatnot, so that they feel compelled to actually click through. And then lastly, you have your call to action, which is typically at the end of the video, where you include your offer, your call to action, your graphic, your logo. You can even include scarcity or urgency here. And this is basically the 4-step process to creating viral videos or highly engaging video ads. And so let's see what this looks like in an actual video format. Okay. So this is a video ad that I edited for a client that has done very, very well. And I've iterated on this ad many, many times. So the hook right here, it was a woman basically cussing. She was tasting the drink. The product is called 3 Spirit. It's a non-alcoholic beverage. So when she drinks it for the first time, she actually cusses out loud. She says, "Oh, fuck. Oh, shit." I forget. But I bleeped out the word, and then I put an emoji over her mouth. And I actually zoomed into her face. So I did a lot of little, I would say, like editing tricks to try to keep her attention, keep the attention, to not just make it a basic reaction. I added more layers to it. And then the second hook, I actually added a caption here: how to get a buzz without the hangover. And this headline actually performed best because there's a curiosity aspect to that, right? You want to know what it is. So when you combine those two together, how to get a buzz without a hangover, number one, that's a curiosity factor. Like, what could that be? And number two, you have the visual of her, it's kind of a crazy, she's got crazy hair, the crazy backdrop, crazy colors going on. And then number three, you have an audio hook, which is her talking, plus cussing. So it's like all of your senses are being tickled. And then moving into the interest format, I haven't really explained what the actual product is yet, but I just say the internet is going crazy for these magical mocktails. Okay. Haven't revealed anything yet. So the viewer is still on their toes. If I went from, how to get a buzz without the hangover, introducing this product, it could bore people because it's like, oh, that's what it is. But if you build up the suspense, you build up that tension, they're more likely to keep watching. So for example, when I watch like TikTok videos or something, keep watching till the end. Here are 5 tips to get X, Y, and Z. And then, you're almost forced to watch the rest of the video because you want the payoff at the end. So in the desire portion, this is where the product's introduced, where we have key benefits as well as testimonials. There's a lot going on in this section right here. This is probably a bulk of the video, but I didn't include all the screenshots just because, it would take too much space. But this is where we're actually selling the product. We're creating the desire to actually take action and click through. So people are probably clicking through within this portion right here because they're seeing a lot of social proof. They're seeing why it's good for them, et cetera, et cetera. And then lastly, if they made it all the way to the end of the video, we've got a nice little call to action, a branded photo with a CTA and an arrow. Okay. So that's the main format right here. And I'll link the video down below, and we'll also do a breakdown of this video in another video, another tutorial. But this is a common framework that I use over and over again to create very, very effective video ads. Another thing too is you can apply this framework to any video ad style as well as any length. So if you wanted to shorten the video ad, you can reduce the amount of benefits and features that you're going to be talking about in a video. If you want to lengthen it, just add more selling points. Really, it just comes down to how your audience responds to, the video and which platform you're working on. So if it's YouTube, it's gonna, you could get away with a longer video. But if it's TikTok, it's gonna be really quick, or Facebook, somewhere in the middle. Remember, hooks will always remain 3 to 8 seconds of the video. The other segments can vary in length. I just want to preface, our ability to capture attention is really the key to any success on social media or any type of video creative or any type of written post. At the end of the day, we have a million things going on. And if we don't capture their attention, you're done, right? So this is non-negotiable. You cannot change the length of this. You could even shorten it, to be honest. Have a 2-second hook versus a 5-second hook. And it could be as simple as like flashing like an image of somebody or like a graphic thumbnail and then cutting to the video. These are all different various techniques, but remember, this is the key, and you want to make sure that this is the thing you're testing most often. So as we move forward into understanding all these different pieces, I want you to think of your video sequences and clips in modular pieces. Okay, so modular meaning like individual. Think of like a Lego piece. When you have modular pieces, you are able to move them around. Okay, and when you know this and when you have this, editing becomes much simpler. All right, so let's show you an example here. So this is an example of modular video assets. I like to think of it as buckets. So if I have kids, so we put all of their toys in different buckets. So we have their action figures, we have their Legos, we have their car toys, we have their wooden toys, we have puzzles. And so the list goes on, right? And the same thing is applicable to your video assets or all of your creative assets. And in this case, we have our hooks, our animations, our lifestyle footage, our pain points, our product features, our B-roll, our authorities. These could be like interviews or doctors. We can have demonstrations, social proof, CTAs, UGC images, product image, list goes on and on. But I would say majority can fit into these categories because this is the most common categories that we use within our production. So this is very important as an editor as you organize all your footage, because if you know where all of your stuff is at, then you can actually utilize it a lot more effectively. Okay, so it's almost like, hey, I only need this tool, I only need this screw, I only need that one, right? Versus it's like a toolbox. If you have all of your screws just laid out on the table as a complete mess, it's going to be very, very difficult to sort and filter which ones you actually need versus which ones are not going to be useful. And that's the exact same thing when it comes to your video assets. And as an editor, it's so important that you know where all of your stuff is at, and you have to know which assets are going to be most effective, and you have to study this stuff. And if you don't, then you're just going to use the wrong stuff that could be thrown away, or you're not using the right stuff that could actually make the video take off. So here's what I mean by modularity, modular format, and applying the ADA format to it. Okay, so as an attention grabber or a hook or a scroll stopper, there's so many different names for it, you can include a pain point shot in here. If let's say the 3-spirit one, if someone was drinking booze or alcohol and they were spitting it out, that would be a pain point, right? And then to gain their interest, we can include an animation. This weird new non-alcoholic beverage has shown to reduce hangovers, or completely eliminate hangovers. And you can show maybe an animation of like it going into your liver and it being processed, whatever. I'm just talking out loud here. And then when that's over, because you still haven't really revealed it, then you can show demonstrations of the product as well as social proof to get them excited and just want to click on the video. And then lastly, you have the CTA, right? So that's one variation. So you have all these tools. It's like, okay, well, how can I reformat this video in a different way. Here's a different way. Okay, let's do the same thing, but let's swap out the animation for authority. All right. So what I mean by that is, okay, we have the same pain point of, okay, the person drinking and throwing up. And then next we include, let's say, a doctor who talks about the toxicity of alcohol and why that's so bad for you, right? You haven't revealed the product yet, but you're just saying, hey, like if you ever done this before and you don't want these consequences, we have a solution for you. So that is another opportunity to test something out. And that's actually something we might be able to propose to the team, because this is a very crucial time in the sequence, right? We're looking at the 3 to 10 second or 3 to 8 second mark here, where you still have their attention, you're keeping them interested. And so, yeah, that's something we might even test. Later on in the video, if let's say that this pain point and this authority piece works very well, then maybe you can start playing with further down in the video. If you look at some of your metrics and see that there's a drop-off rate, within the, let's say, 20, 25 second mark, you guys, as an editor, you should go back to your timeline and be like, okay, what's happening in the 25 second mark where I can make this more engaging? If people are dropping off there, then they're either getting bored or they don't really care, or it's not appealing to them. So why don't we spice it up? Why don't we add something instead of social proof? Let's add another pain point. Let's twist the knife a little bit, get them re-engaged in the video. Here's a little demonstration or a little illustration of what I mean by putting all of your video assets into buckets or labeling them. Just like Legos, we are able to sort and filter our own footage from hook, intro, benefit, features, social proof, animations, pain points, call to action, you name it. If you don't name it, if you don't have a name for something, then it's just going to be floating without a category and you're not going to know when to use it. And I think this is so important. This is something that I've learned over the years, is like, you've got to know where all your assets at. You've got to label everything and you've got to be super organized. These are your tools, man. As an editor, your job is to be able to maximize the resources that you have. And sometimes you don't have the best resources. So you have to know what's in your toolbox in order to create something worthy. Here's another example of doing the ADA format within the timeline. So you got your hook, your intro, your benefit, your feature, your call to action, right? This is a very simplified format or simplified timeline, but this just gives you a perspective of what that looks like on the timeline. So you can go to the extent of even creating some of these guides for you within Premiere, so that you're aware of where you're at in the video. So it's like, okay, right now I'm focusing on the intro. So let me carve out 3 seconds for the intro there. Here are some additional video ad frameworks that could be useful to test. Here you have demonstration, benefit, and validation. It's a simple 3-step process. There's no call to action there. Here you're just showing the problem, showing the solution, how it benefits the user, and then maybe some social proof. Like, boom, you're done. This is like a 15-second ad right here. Next, you have hook, demonstration, benefit, explain the product, and then call to action. This could be a little bit of a longer video, but this framework could be used more of like a cold traffic ad as well. It really depends. It really depends. It depends on what you have as assets that you can create these frameworks under. So if you have a lot of content, feel free to chop it up and create something engaging, because even brands don't realize their own potential for their own content because no one is looking at it that way. And this is what makes you an advanced editor, is being able to assess the content that a brand or a company has sent you, be able to organize it, and then create a framework and high converting ad out of it. Because that's literally what people pay you lots of money for, because they don't know how to do it themselves. And this is exactly how you do it yourself. Last one, you've got benefit, explain CTA, show the benefit to the user, explain how it works, CTA, right? So really depends on the format. If we want to go shorter, if we want to go longer, or middle range. Like I said, these could be rearranged, but your hook is going to stay there and your CTA is going to stay there. but there are some exceptions. If you wanted to add a CTA in between the video, that's actually a thing I've been seeing a lot of people test. You can put CTAs like after the first, 5 or so seconds or the first 10 seconds, just because people will drop off and you want to get them to click. So lots of crazy ways, lots of cool ways that you can do stuff these days.